at the gate right now? You're elevator. Okay, come over to the tunnel.
Security issues. I got security. Hey, don't worry about somebody doing something, y'all. Harming y'all around here. They got the garage on lockdown.
So before we start talking about what you're doing now, and you're doing some incredible things, we see you all over the internet, of course. You got some great motivational stuff that's happening for the world, and the food that you're putting out, the food that you're putting out there right now is delicious. Wow. Let's talk about your humble beginnings, man.
Yeah, well, man, I always tell people, man, it just, just like so many cats whose father wasn't in his life, I didn't have a direction, man. My mom got pregnant when she was 17 years old. My grandma kicked her out, and it wasn't about love. My grandma had 14 kids on the south side of Chicago, 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, so my grandma was like, I can't afford to feed another mouth. And so my mom was homeless, trying to find her way. So here's a 17-year-old kid, having a kid, so just when kids say I started from the bottom, now we here. Well, my bottom started a generation before my bottom. You know what I'm saying? So mom found her way, man. Ended up, finishing high school, getting a job as a photographer for the government, and then she ended up moving to Detroit later on and got a job with Ford Motor Company in headquarters. So she eventually got married, and my mom didn't tell me who my father was, and that's really where the anger began. I found out when I was 12, who my real father was, and I was one of those kids that had 3 grandmas, so I knew Sesame Street, one of these grandmas don't belong, you know what I'm saying? So I got into it with my mom, like, why did you lie to me? Left home at 14, came back and forth, and at 16, I left for good. So I was living in abandoned buildings, on the west side of Detroit, eating out of garbage cans, and then I had a mentor, a pastor who came into my life when I was about 17, helped me get to college.
Tell us the story of the idea of even becoming a motivational speaker and traveling around and doing this, man. Where did that come from?
So when I was in college, I think my freshman year, a part of our English assignment was to watch the Eyes on the Prize series. I didn't know who Medgar Evers was. I'm watching my man do his thing, Marcus Garvey. I had never heard of Marcus Garvey a day in my life. Malcolm X, I'm watching these dudes, Martin Luther King, and they breaking down the history. I'm looking at Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. So when I started reading that kind of stuff, I was like, wow, look at the positive impact these dudes are having. I want to be like that. So I didn't really see Dr. J and go, I could hoop. I didn't see Tony Dorsett and say, I could play football. But when I saw Medgar Evers, I can't explain it to you. When I saw Malcolm, I felt like, yo, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could do that right there. Like, I can't hoop, but I promise you give me a mic, I can talk like that. I can influence people in a positive way. And I remember my first message, I want to be honest, I was raw. You know what I'm saying? My first.
Yeah, what did you say in that first?
Yeah,
That's what I was about to ask you about.
My first message was, pimping ain't easy, but somebody's got to do it. That was my first message. Pimping ain't easy, but somebody got to do it. And what I was saying was, that many of us are being pimped. We're not going to school. We're not educating ourselves. We're not handling we're getting pimped, right? And so it was raw, because that was like a university. So they weren't really used to that. But I saw dudes respond like, yo, E, that's raw, but that's real.
Right.
Like, I ain't never heard it like that before. I've never put myself in that place before. And while the university administrators weren't like, hey, the students was like, yo, E, that's fire. And I saw dudes who wouldn't normally respond to Chapel in a good way. Every time I spoke, they was like, I gotta be there. So I knew I had something, knew I had to work on it. I had to hone my craft a little bit, but I knew it was something that when I would do, I would just like light up. I would just goosebumps. I just I felt good every time I was in that space.
Talk about the importance of those two things, the commitment and the dedication for someone that's listening and hearing this right now, so they can be able to take themselves to the next
Absolutely.
level.
Well, this is what I believe. I believe that there's certain things that come to you as the level of commitment grows. So I've got this speech that I do where I talk about when you give in low engagement and low risk, the return is going to be low. But when you give high risk and high engagement, the return is going to be high. And there's some people like, why am I not getting the big gigs? You ain't making the big commitments. You know what I'm saying? Why am I not getting the opportunities that he's getting? Because you're not making the sacrifices he's making. You can't ask for what my man is asking for if you're not making the sacrifices my man making. So Michael Jordan, he the best ever. Yes, but nobody says Mike was always the first one there. to practice, he was the last one to leave. Nobody says Jerry Rice was always practicing 2 hours before practice and then another 2 hours after practice. I want to be like Mike. No, you don't. You want what Mike has, but you don't want Mike's grind.
Right.
So in order to get to the next level, there is a commitment that you have to make. You got to be careful when you do a lot of talking, because when you talk, somehow this generation gets off on talking. And so when they talk, they get the same feeling, the same euphoric feeling that a person who gets a reward from grinding gets. You know what I'm saying? So they feel the same way. Like I grind and succeed, they feel the same way talking about it. So they sitting there talking to their homeboy about it. They getting all the feelings.
Yeah.
They geeked up about it. And then so they don't realize that that's why you're not gonna make it happen, because you sat there and got all pumped up about when you should have reserved that for doing. So for me, I tell them, don't post until you do. Like, what would the world look like if you didn't post until you actually did it?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't get to put up all that talking, you had to perform first, then you put up, right? Then you would do it. Why? Because you don't get to talk. So that's what I tell people, bro. Like, look, execution is worship. Ain't nobody, everybody got an idea. Everybody got a dream. This world worship people that execute, that get it done.